that we have here and some other points about terraforming. And then we're gonna do a test terraforming live to see how it goes. Okay, so terraforming goes in a few parts. First is you do initial block, like you imagine just the shape, how it goes, every aspect of it. You basically blob it out with any tools you want. You can do voxels, you can do just lifting it up if it's small enough terrain, you can do bowls. It's basically personal preference. The details and how you do it specifically come later, and that's where the trick is. So after the initial blobbing goes shaping. Where I am doesn't really matter right now. Right now, I'm just talking about the points about terraforming. Basically, right now, I'm above the showcase terraforming, the green one. When you do shaping, you do every shape. You do cliffs. You do beaches. You don't do details as it is, because after that you usually do smoothing and detailed shaping, and only after that you do detailing. So let's go over the step-by-step terraforming. Basically, we have the showcase terraform here, and on the side here we have a step-by-step of it. I don't know how to teleport everyone to me, but basically I'm on this rough plot in the corner of the whole thing. Okay. Okay, I don't have access to this command. Let's see. Cake, are you here? Can you TP everyone to me, or? Yeah, give up, please. I'm reviewing from Planet Minecraft. Okay, I can't see anyone. Waiting for it to be fixed, because apparently I'm in a world where I'm just the only one here, and Cake as well. Yeah, the step-by-step mini plots are the ones I'm gonna show you right now. Okay, right now I am above a plot which just goes to show you the first step is usually just plotting it out, which doesn't really matter the exact shape. You usually want to plot the general shape, how it looks. Imagine the end. I don't know what you're doing, a mountain or any other terraforming. After that, let's go to the next plot. Is more detailed shaping. You want to do rocks in here. You want to do the cliffs. You want to do basic smoothing. What you do here, you usually use melt brushes, fill brushes, lift brushes. Uh, Blend ball is usually just to fix things, but you don't want to use it in the end. I'll show you later why you don't want to do that. So let's go to the next one. This one here is basically all smoothed and reached terraforming from the last plot. And I also added water in here. Uh, why did I add water as lapis and not as water? Because in some late patch, water became glitchy, and when you just fill down it or fill it with world edit, it just creates lighting problems. So my solution to this was I just fill down with some solid material like lapis and then replace it with water. And this step, I usually smooth with blend ball, a bit melt, a bit fill. You don't want to use blend ball with higher size than 5 or maybe 4. I I think you should be able to spectate my viewpoint. Yeah. So on this step, I usually just go over the general shape and try to pick out the details and basically finish up the shape. Go to the next step. Here, what I do is I do painting. Of course, it's a very important part of terraforming. Uh, Adding beaches, adding grass, adding different stone variations. There are a few brushes that you usually want to use while doing this. The first one is blob brush with or CM performer, which allows you to replace one material with another. The other one is SB, which is splatter ball, which allows you to basically splatter material onto some surfaces, but usually don't want to overuse it because it starts to look really jittery and not very good, basically. The other brushes here that I use are overlay brush and S overlay brush. S overlay brush is basically B S over. It's one word, sober, and it's basically splatter overlay. No, it's B. Let me show you. Yeah, as he said. And then the next part is basically finishing up. Let's go to the next plot. Is finishing up the terrain, adding different details like grass, like bushes, like trees. You don't usually want to add trees before adding like structures because it's easy to remove grass or bushes, but it's not as easy to remove trees. But it's possible. When I add grass, there are a few different techniques that I usually use. Uh, One is quite basic. Is you can use just bone meal brush is the easiest one. You don't need any knowledge, you just use it. The other ones you can use with world edit, but I'm not going to go over it right now because well, you can look it up, but it's not very effective on small surfaces. You will usually want to do it only when you're doing really large terraforming. And the third one is BS over with gunpowder. Why with gunpowder? Because it doesn't place the block on the surface, it places it above the surface. And you want to do S over D1 because you want only one layer. I talked about it when I was going over the painting. It's a great brush for painting. It's not that great for shaping. I sometimes use it on the first stage, but after that I don't use it. Also, about blobs and other brushes, I wanted to say about bushes, how I do. I usually use blob brush. Sometimes it's size 3 and growth rate of 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, basically 4 threes. It's for cliffs, and sometimes I just use, I can, let me show you the command. It's the command for bushes. And for bushes, you want to use higher IDs of leaves. For example, this bush right here has ID of, I think it is 17, 14. Why 14? Because 12, 13, and 14 IDs are for non-decaying leaves. Because when you use the ID 1, 2, 3, they would decay if you use it on survival server. Or any server that basically allows decaying of leaves. Yeah, you might want to replace all the leaves if they are not attached to any wood, log. You would like to replace them with non-decaying ones. So let's go about smoothing and shaping parts of the process. I'll go over it and then we'll go live building. So if you can see these plots over here, they are meant to represent different smoothing grades from really rough to over smoothed. So basically in the middle is what I consider a good smoothing of terrain. It has some ridges and it has smooth parts. It doesn't have any stairs. It doesn't have any weird shapes in there. And it goes as a natural flow. On this side, you can see really rough terrain is basically what you have after you just lift it and you don't even melt and fill. This is what you usually have when you just melt and fill without any additional smoothing. And on the other side, this is just over blend walled. It doesn't look really great. It's what you have after just blend balling everything. And this is just not very great smoothing. It's a bit over smoothed as well. It doesn't have ridges. It doesn't have a defined structure to the train. So for this line of plots, here is the final product, final train. It still can have some trees or structures in here, but the train itself and the decoration, the leaves. Yeah, some people like more rough, but rough doesn't have to be random. Like rough is good when you when it has a purpose. When it doesn't have a purpose, it's not good. It doesn't look good. It doesn't have any real good meaning to it. This terrain over here was meant to represent how you can have both smooth terrain and with ridges, with some rough parts. Uh, Unfortunately, it's not finished because Toby isn't here, but well, that's another problem. Which one exactly are you talking about, Knuckles? The stone one? Usually it's still a combination of smoothing with melt fill and blend bowl, and also another thing when you do terrain, you usually don't want to use hands, but sometimes you don't want to shy away from it. So some of these details might be done with hands, like, I don't know, this place over here, for example. It's really hard to do. Like, for example, it's smooth on top. It's edited with Sniper on the side, but the edge itself might be done with hands. Yeah. The next thing I wanted to talk about is natural terrain. That's a really good point, Aaron Echo. Because if terrain doesn't look natural, if it doesn't have the core shape that can be found in real life, it doesn't look good. Even if it's in a really fantasy setting, uh, if it doesn't have a shape of a rock, it doesn't look like terrain. So it's a really good idea uh, to look up pictures of terrain. I'm not on a plot right now. I'm gonna start doing a live terrain right now here in the middle. I'm gonna mark a plot over here. So right now I'm in a plot in the middle, which is just a stone brick right now. So let's go step by step. First step is basic shaping. You can do it with bowls, you can do it with voxels, you can do it with just lifting up the terrain. I mix it up all the time. It's just a personal preference. The initial shaping might be done with bowls, yeah. So, yeah, spheres. It's a bowl brush. Usually, the shape itself in the start matters only in general idea. But you can still plot it out like you want it in the end. And you can use voxels as well. It's, again, personal preference. You can use anything you want. What I usually use for small things is lift brush. It's this. This is lift command. Yeah, I usually use it for initial shaping as well as voxel and ball commands. For lifts, you can use both arrow and gunpowder. Arrow lifts it up and gunpowder brings it down. So this is lifting up and this is with gunpowder. It goes down. You use melt and fill when you do the smoothing and shaping. You don't really need it initially. Okay, for some reason I have a size restricted to 6 right now, so I can't do higher than that, but I'm fine with it right now. EV brushes are good, but you don't really want to go too far with them because they sometimes over smooth just like Nordwolf. So after that, you want to use melt itself or other ones, or you want to do really small edits with them. Yeah, right now I'm using the lift command. Yeah, that's the initial step. Uh, I usually have it really rough. Right now I'm using a smaller brush to emphasize some ridges on the mountain. Unfortunately, it started later, but and I'm gonna finish it later than in 4 minutes. You can use BE fill as well. It, as I said, the initial shaping doesn't really matter as much as what you do after that. The general shape matters, but the tools you go for when you do them don't really matter until you actually um, do the smoothing and the detailing the detailing of the terrain. Okay, now I have higher brush sizes, which makes it so much better for me. Right now, I'm using fill to smooth it out, not blend ball. I mean, it can be used, but I don't really like it even on this stage. I'll go over smoothing when I go to that part. There are different techniques like using gravel or sand to do mountains, but they're really specific and I'm not gonna go over them right now. They're not really universal. Right now I'm using melt and fill. Another really neat thing about Voxel Sniper is that melt and fill can be used with arrow and gunpowder to switch between fill and melt by just switching arrow to gunpowder without typing in the command. So right now it's melt, right, and then it's fill. It's just changing up gunpowder and arrow. It's B and melt right now. Right now it's B lift to lift the mountain up a bit. As you can see, it's all interchangeable, but there are some clear difference between the parts when you do them. And then melt again. Now I'm just doing different ridges to make it look more natural, and if you can see natural flow in it, it's gonna look much better. So it is VE melt and fill and lift. It's basically all interchangeable right now. It's shaping. And when you shape, you can use anything for that. Like right now it's lift. And then I'm gonna use fill and melt to smooth it out and make a better shape. And now I'm using lift with gunpowder to bring down the train a bit to make room for water. No, I'm not German. Yeah. No, I'm not. Uh, I'll tell you later about my answer. I'm changing brush size all the time. So right now it's brush size 7. Before it was, I think, 4. These mountains are meant to represent small cliffs. They are not large mountains that you're gonna see in mountain ranges because In Minecraft, it's really hard to represent the actual scale, and sometimes you have to make compromises. Sorry, my voice is wrong. Something. Sorry. Okay, now it should be better. Okay, now it's better. Okay, now I'm using blend bowl to do really straight, really gentle slopes and not the hills themselves. Yeah, like that, Nico. Right now it looks overly blend bold, but we're gonna fix it in a bit. It's something to remove the noise, but it's definitely not the end result. I'm from Blockworks, if you're interested. Now back to melt and fill to remove all these stairs, which are really bad for smoothing. You can do blend bowl, but as I said, with small sizes, yeah, you really don't want to use blend bowl. It's something it's a utility brush. It's not an end product brush. Right now I'm using fill to emphasize this ridge over here. And I might add another one here. Right now I'm using fill and melt, but most of the time is fill. As I said, it's interchangeable when I use this command because I use an arrow and gunpowder. Right now it's gunpowder because the command is melt. For example, right now it's melt to bring down the size of the sides a bit. Yeah, at Christian. It's the same for fill, but fill does a different thing. It's good for initial shaping, but later it's useless most of the time. Yeah, that happens all the time. So, for example, you talked about smoothing and then changing something up. Right now, I'm gonna do that, but it's bad smoothing, so I'm not feeling bad about it at all. I'm gonna add some rocks, like the... Right now I'm using lifts with size 4 brush. And now I'm gonna use a bit of blend ball to make these stones a bit nicer. It's size 3 blend ball right now. Now melt to emphasize the rocks a bit more, so they look like rocks and not just part of them. BE Smooth produces some really weird squarey shapes. Basically, it just doesn't do anything well. It's so great that it doesn't lag like yesterday, because I wouldn't be able to do this. Guys did a good job on fixing it. I'm using BE melt right now with gunpowder. Basically, it's fill right now and melt and fill interchangeably. Size, it's size 2. Right now it's size 2. Size 3, size 2. Right now it's size 2. Then I'm going to switch to 3 to make a bit more drastic changes. Like right now it's size 3. Right now I'm using blend bolt to remove jitteriness of this terrain. I'm trying not to overdo it, because if you do it a bit, it looks good, but if you do it a lot, it doesn't look good. Now I'm gonna try to do the ridges a bit better. So it's blendable and melt on the sides, but not on the ridge itself. Okay, right now terrain doesn't look in an ideal shape, but it's close to being good. And we don't have much time, so I'm gonna do the next part, which is painting. And add in water in the meantime. I'm probably gonna add water about this height. I'm gonna add, you can add water with either fill down brush in Voxel Sniper or with World Edit. First, I usually add a solid block, and then I replace it with water to prevent the glitches which were introduced recently with the water. First, we're gonna do walls so water doesn't flow everywhere. And then I'm replacing the lapis with the water. I think I accidentally didn't do that. Okay, for some reason I can't use water in World Edit right now. Okay, I'm gonna use Sniper, which is fine as well. Yeah, I'm gonna go over the commands that I'm using for painting. Yeah, replace doesn't work because 9 is not allowed, so I'm gonna use Sniper. And for Sniper, I'm just gonna use a really large voxel. BVCM. This is BV or B. Any brush basically works which replaces water. So first I'm probably gonna add beaches because uh, first I usually do overlay brushes because they are easier to manage than other ones. That was the brush I used to replace water. Right now I'm using B over CM. CM means combo material. So if you have a material selected which is which has an ID, it needs a C because MM doesn't use your material's ID. I usually use just CM for everything, even if I don't use because MM is just not useful for me. For sand, I usually use D2 because for grass, I usually use D1. For sand, I usually use D2. And shift right click on stone to set it as a replace material. It's another useful thing. I'm gonna use a small brush. It's size 5. Right now I'm using size 3. Yeah, I think all the beaches are in place. I'm not gonna do the back side of this, just the front side. Now I'm gonna add grass. No, wrong one. You don't really want to use sphere and the mask. I think that's a really inefficient way to do that. Size 4, 5, 3. Really small sizes right now. Yeah, mask and stone. So VR stone or shift click stone, shift right click stone, sorry. So another reason why I usually overlay first, because later I can just replace grass with other materials like green stained clay, or sometimes I even replace grass with leaves, but most of the time I do it over them. Yeah, just really small size. And right now I'm gonna fix this stone. That's what I do a lot when I terraform. I go back to forming when I see something that I don't like. So now that the grass is in place, we can move on to other materials and paint the stone itself. For stone, you can use a lot of materials. Some of them include stained clay, other stones. Sometimes I even use wood. Like over here, I use wood. You obviously don't want to use it on a survival map, but if you're doing a creative project, it works really well. Also, another stone here is great, but I usually add it later, just as a replacement for this stone, just splattering it out. So let's go over the brushes. The first brush that I'm gonna be using is the blob, and blob with a growth of 30%. I'll tap it out for painting. That's what I usually use. Sometimes I use a higher growth rate. Sometimes I use it not as high. Right now we can use even a higher to do a smoother painting job. So let's go and grab stained clay 9 by right and left clicking it with a shift. Size about 7 because blob is usually really downsized. And start painting. Because B is a very right shape, it doesn't create any randomness and natural flow that is in nature and is in any terrain. I mean, you can use ball, but usually I use solid brushes like ball or voxel to replace everything at once. If I'm lazy to use world edit or something like that. Even with painting, you want natural flow. So, and shading is another aspect of painting. For example, darker blocks should probably be inside, like these ridges, and on the edges, you want brighter ones. But that can vary from project to project and from palette to palette. Or should you say palette? I'm not sure actually. As I said, I'm only gonna do this side because we don't really have time. Right now I'm using blob command with growth of 30%, about 30%. I tapped it out before. If you're interested, you can look it up in chat. Growth is basically uh, how does blob works. It's not 3 through 3, it's 4 threes because 3 through 3 just is a smaller one. It's 3%, I think. How blob works, it starts with a point and then grows to a percentage of size of the brush you selected. Yeah, it's not, it should be not 3%, it should be 30%, just so you know. Or you can just do 3 and then 0, 0, 0. Right now I'm gonna do I add a bit of wood to it, which should look like stone. Yeah, it's quite well explained. That's why I'm not going into details right now. What I'm doing right now is because I have a palette right now over here. I'm just grabbing blocks and painting them over here. But if you have your own one, you can use any blocks you want. Although you still should be cautious of your colors and your palette, but it's another topic. So now we have this painted mountain. It's not fully painted, but since the way I'm usually doing the bushes, one of the ways includes solver, and it doesn't go over any not natural blocks. So it's right now it's gonna go only over stone or grass. Let me show you how it works. I use B solver D1, and then I use gunpowder with it. And then I grab a leaf block, a really small brush, like 3 or 2, and go over and paint leaves. I forgot that I typed them in chat, but not in my as commands. Okay, now they work. I typed the command in chat if you want to see it. To be honest, I don't know if anyone is recording this. Okay, since I went over the first way I do leaves, I'm gonna go over the second way I do leaves as well. I use blob for leaves as well. So how do I do it? I use the same growth size as we used before, which is 30%, but I use usually size 3, and replace with air, and that's quite easy. Let me show you how it works. You can still use solver, and it's basically bone meal if you select tall grass, but the more efficient ways are just using bone meal or using world edit. Although solver is very useful if you just want to paint a very simple grass. I'll show you later when I do grass. Do you mean by uploading drink a Coke? So bushes with blobs. I usually still use manual removal of blocks because blobs sometimes get out of control, but they're still really useful for doing it. I think that should be enough for bushes right now. Passports, I don't think there is right now on any plugin, but we're working on a plugin which might have that feature in the future, but it's not even near close to being done. So right now I'm gonna use the same brush as I did for leaves, but I'm gonna replace stone with a brighter stone to emphasize the ridges. Yeah, back to painting. This actually looks quite nice without white, but I'm still gonna add it. And then you select the material with either V and material or shift clicking and right clicking for AD on the material you want. And I'm also gonna add grass with Solver. You can use Solver, Bone Meal, or World Edit for it. I don't think the actual method makes a difference, but yeah. Shift clicking includes only the value itself, but shift right clicking includes the value, only value. Basically, there are two different things. shift clicking and right clicking. The solver can be funky sometimes, so you don't really want to use it over any other blocks than grass. That's why bone meal sometimes is actually superior. Like you see here, it's over stone. That's why sometimes it's not useful at all. No, there is no V bone meal. You can just use bone meal and then replace flowers with what you want. There's another way with world edit. I'm not gonna talk about it too much, but I'm just gonna say is how you do it. You basically use gmasks. No, you don't use overlay. You use gmasks, which mask it above grass and only replaces air. And you, of course, use world edit brushes. I'm not doing backside of the mountain because I don't have time. I'm over the time right now, to be precise. Yeah, gmasks because you want several masks, not one mask. Uh, that's the only reason to use gmasks. So right now the terrain is pretty much done. I can also use the green stained clay, but I'm not gonna add it because it looks fine right now. Do you think so? Also, another thing which is beautiful about Voxel Sniper is that you can use biomes with it. But unfortunately, they're a bit glitched, so to see the effects of the biome brush, you have to TP away from the place and TP back, or relog in. So that's why I'm not going to use it here right now. But just a small tip, try to use a biome brush when you have time to experiment. So that's it for the terraforming session live. Um, it's been nice working with you guys. Really nice questions. If you have them, it's the time to ask them right now. Yep, sure. I have Twitter, but I don't have many tweets, but I check it regularly, so you can write me there. So how do you mix biomes? First way is use really small brushes, like size 1 or size 0 biome brush. That way you can place one biome besides another biome, and it kind of looks like splattering the biome. Unfortunately, there is no splatter biome brush right now. We are working on it, but I'm not sure if it's gonna come. So I haven't said that. We don't have that right now. Some nice biomes include roofed forest, uh, mesa, desert, forest plains. Others are more basic in color. Also, another one is ice plains or any other ice biome. The biomes, I can write them down. Well, the ones I remember right now. I'm writing them in chat right now. Small sized blob. It's Santa Claus. You can look up in the Minecraft wiki, but most of them are similar to each other. That's why I usually have a small list of biomes that actually affect it. This list of biomes is just also jungle. I just rarely use jungle, that's why I didn't type it down. I'm talking about biomes because people asked about them, and I said that you can use them in your terraforming. And it's a bit tricky, that's why I'm not using them right now here. Yeah, this would be great. Yeah, I'm from Blockworks. Any other questions? Can answer them for now. SR Guide, where are you? Thank you to Santa Claus. So, SRG. Um, it looks good, but what I'd say to make it more natural, you might want to have a bit more defined edges. But other than that, for now, it looks fine. Not on the backside, though. I do use World Painter and World Machine, but I use them rarely and only for large projects. I usually use Voxel Sniper in game. Uh, the official part is over. You can ask me questions. I can go over some things if you want. Santa Claus, as I said, Solver isn't a great one. Um, Sometimes you want to use World Edit, sometimes you want to use just Bone Meal and then replace the flowers. So yeah, it's just Solver being not ideal. You can't remove them from stone right now. I usually look up terrain before I start it, but it isn't defined like exactly. I've been terraforming for, well, I didn't know. I think I started about 4 years ago, maybe less. I'm not sure. to be honest. I think I started terraforming when Voxel Sniper came around. Well, I wasn't good at it. I'm not sure if I'm great at it still, but yep. What do you mean by height map brush? Do you mean as a slope selection or just like having a height map and painting with it? Uh, I'll add it, but I'm not sure if it's gonna be that. I can ask about the organics class, but I'm not sure. I'm in contact with Vanessa or Cake Icing.